You know the old saying, you get the government you deserve. It's true. Through decadence and apathy, we have allowed lesser men and women to use, abuse, and exploit us to enrich and empower themselves. Once threatened with exposure, this class of people has sought to rob us of our God-given right of self-determination. So these charlatans can avoid the accountability, you see. It is my hope, inspired by our fallen heroes, that our people rise up and drive this cancerous influence from our politics and our lives. The majority of government proves unworthy of the fallen's sacrifice. That's our observation in today's preamble. There are some patriots who are wise enough and pro-American enough to see what's going on here. Newt Gingrich, in a recent op-ed, opining that leftists have corrupted our government. It is a level of corruption that makes Watergate look like the drafting of the Constitution. The press is either complicit or ignorant of the scope because the source of the depravity is sponsored by Marxist devotees. Their actions are rarely questioned by the elite and traitorous press. It saddens me to think of how many Americans actually died to preserve a freedom of the press, only to see that very same media betray our people in such a profound fashion. An online video features agents identifying themselves as ATF agents, showing up to citizens' doors and demanding forfeiture of legal firearm components. These components have been deemed unacceptable by Joe Biden's regime through a rule change that has no force of law and should earn the ATF and their agents, who are silly enough to try to enforce this, myriad lawsuits. It is my hope these lawsuits start flooding against a lawless regime that is ruling through fear, ignorance, and intimidation. On recent episodes of the Salcedo Storm podcast and this morning on the Chris Salcedo radio show, law enforcement, legal analysts, and activists tell a tale of the U.S. government colluding with narco-terrorists to import illegal aliens, drugs, and sex slaves into the United States. Americans were disgusted in our subpar government when we learned that that same U.S. government simply lost 85,000 illegal alien children. That disgust was compounded when a whistleblower revealed that the U.S. taxpayer, through inhuman government policy and people, were actually delivering illegal alien children into work and sex slavery to pay their debts to narco-terrorists and human traffickers. In short, under socialist Democrat control, the U.S. government is a partner with organized crime, slavery, and pedophilia. Most Americans would want to stop this, to stop funding this, to force our government back into its constitutional role rather than its extra-constitutional and lawless course. For this, they relied on the alleged opposition party, the Republicans. Initially, a modest proposal was encouraging. The House GOP proposed a $1.5 trillion increase in the debt ceiling in exchange for a reduced rate of overspending, resulting in a little less than $5 trillion in less government overspending in a 10-year span. At no time did the Republicans propose cuts to federal spending, only a reduction in the rate of overspending. It was a start. However, over the Memorial Day weekend, when everybody was tuned out, the GOP reached a debt ceiling deal with Joe Biden and his Democrats. The deal went from a one-year deal to a two-year deal, taking Washington's profligate spending out of the presidential race debate because, let's be honest, only we the people, not our government, care about irresponsible spending that threatens the existence of this country. What happened to the proposed $5 trillion in reduced spending? Did we get $4 trillion in a compromise? Did we get $2 trillion in a cut in spending? How's about $1 trillion in reduced overspending? Nope. For next year, spending remains at Joe Biden's unacceptably high level. And in year two, the government spends 1% more. So we went from a spending reduction to a spending increase, all to fund the government lawlessness we outlined, confirming to all Americans that the majority of our leaders are unworthy of the sacrifice made by our fallen heroes. Meanwhile, in my home state of Texas, weak Republicans there joined Democrats in impeaching one of President Trump's favorite attorneys general, Ken Paxton. On social media, Democrats are celebrating and admitting that this was a political exercise, not a legal one, which explains why the Texas GOP leadership will not allow Ken Paxton to speak in his own defense before they voted. 60 Republicans joined 61 socialists to impeach an attorney general who has been suing to stop Joe Biden's illegal open borders, investigating Big Pharma for their antics during the pandemic, and protecting Texans. Some people stood up for the rule of law and due process. Here is the list of those who voted no or present, including one Democrat. Now, if your lawmaker isn't on this list, then they betrayed their oath to represent you. In fact, those who voted for impeachment were among those killing conservative priorities in Texas during the last legislative session at the behest of Democrat socialists. Fake conservatives in the Texas GOP killed a bill that would have prevented communist China and America's enemies from buying land in Texas. They killed property tax reform. They killed power grid protection and reliable energy. And they also defeated, against the vast majority of Texans' will from all parties, parental school choice. On that last part, 23 fake conservative Republicans joined all socialists to kill parental school choice. Let me show you what these sellouts are protecting. A Texas high school is postponing its graduation after only five of its seniors met the graduation requirements. As you all know, leftists run GovEd, and the GOP of Texas is willing to sacrifice your child's education so the money continues to flow from corrupt GovEd's lobby into their pockets. AG Paxton behaved like someone who opposes Democrats and their cancerous agenda. That's why he has to go. That's why the Bush Rove Good Old Boy Club has been trying to take him out against the will of Texans for nearly a decade. Paxton, Trump, DeSantis, and real conservatives make the Republicans look bad because conservatives actually oppose socialists. AG Paxton was not allowed to give testimony on the validity of the charges against him. The impeachment, according to Texas Government Code 665.081, is illegal. To the 60 GOP members who voted with 61 socialists, I say this: you and your comrades wouldn't allow the accused to present evidence, and that shames you. Sorry, representatives, your vote confirms your contempt for the American system of government and for your own voters. And now, we, the people of Texas, will respond in kind. You have crossed a line. And that leads me to this. To all of you public officials who fail to live up to the sacrifice of our fallen heroes, a question to the majority of you in our unworthy government. All we see from you are laws to constrain and control and restrain we the people. When can we expect you to pass some laws restricting government in these same ways? Perhaps it's time we the people relieved you of that burden, which you have all clearly demonstrated you can't handle, and impose these restrictions on you ourselves. Perhaps a convention of states is our last best hope to create a government that is worthy of those who gave the last full measure of devotion to the United States, so we could all remain free.